of the crypto world that most retail investors overlook. A project that doesn't chase headlines, doesn't rely on hype, and doesn't bend to market noise. Yet it's one of the few digital assets actually running the financial internet of the future. That project is Hedera Hashgraph, and its token HBAR may be one of the most undervalued assets in the entire crypto market. The truth is, most people still don't realize what they're holding. Because when you say Hedera, you're not just talking about another blockchain. You're talking about an enterprise-grade distributed ledger built for the world's biggest institutions: Google, IBM, LG, Boeing, Standard Bank, and more. And if you're holding even just one HBAR, you're technically holding a piece of the future those corporations are already quietly building. Let's make this clear. Hedera is not trying to compete with meme coins. It's not chasing retail hype cycles. It's quietly constructing the digital infrastructure that will underpin the next financial system, from payments, identity, and supply chain to tokenized assets and CBDCs. In other words, the world is already using Hedera. Most people just don't know it yet. The network built for real utility. While other blockchains struggle with congestion, high gas fees, and energy inefficiency, Hedera was designed differently, mathematically differently. It's not even technically a blockchain. It uses a hashgraph consensus, a distributed algorithm that achieves finality in seconds, without mining or proof-of-work waste. That means it's faster than Visa, 10,000 plus transactions per second, greener than any other major network, carbon negative and energy efficient, more secure thanks to asynchronous Byzantine fault tolerance, the highest known security model in distributed computing. But here's where it gets powerful. The companies running Hedera's nodes aren't random validators. They're the world's most trusted enterprises, each managing critical infrastructure globally. When you look at the Hedera Governing Council, you see a list of names that belong in a United Nations Tech Summit. Google, IBM, LG, Tata Communications, Dell, Boeing, Standard Bank, DBS, and more. Each one isn't just a partner. They literally operate the network. And that means they have skin in the game, billions of dollars in market presence and trust at stake. If they're building on Hedera, it's because they see what's coming next. Why just one HBAR matters. Here's the part most people miss. When global infrastructure changes, value doesn't rise linearly, it explodes exponentially. That's what's quietly brewing around HBAR. Let's put it in perspective. When Ethereum was at this stage, before DeFi, before NFTs, a $10 investment looked laughable. Then it became life-changing. HBAR is in a similar position right now. Adoption is scaling, enterprise use cases are launching, and tokenization, the process of turning real-world assets into digital ones, is moving toward Hedera's rails. Because while most people chase speculative pumps, the real institutions are aligning with networks that can handle compliance, governance, and performance, all at scale. That's exactly what Hedera was built for. And here's where it gets wild. Even holding one HBAR means you're technically part of that system, the same system those global corporations are using to test and deploy next-generation financial technology. Think of it like owning one share of the internet before the internet took over the world. The institutional network nobody's talking about. Let's pull back the curtain. Google Cloud runs a Hedera node. IBM uses Hedera for supply chain tracking. LG has launched its own blockchain wallet service built directly on Hedera. Shinhan Bank and Standard Bank are working on tokenized cross-border payment pilots. Hedera Consensus Service, HCS, is being used for digital identity, sustainability reporting, and asset tracking across industries. This isn't theory. It's happening now. And it's all powered by HBAR, which fuels every transaction, contract, and dApp on the network. So when you hold HBAR, even one, you're holding a slice of a system being built for banks, corporations, and nations. That's why smart investors aren't chasing hype coins. They're accumulating infrastructure. Because when the next bull run hits, the market won't just reward speculation, it'll reward utility. And HBAR isn't just useful. It's essential. The quiet revolution. Every few decades, the world shifts, not with noise, but with quiet upgrades in technology that redefine everything. In the 1990s, it was the internet. In the 2000s, it was mobile. In the 2010s, it was cloud computing. Now, in the 2020s, it's distributed ledgers. But not all ledgers are created equal. Most are built for retail transactions. Few are built for global-scale trust. Hedera is one of the only networks that's governed, stable, carbon negative, and ready for enterprise integration. That's why, when people laugh about just one HBAR, they're missing the point. The point isn't how much you hold, it's what you hold. You're holding a key to the financial internet that's being built right now. Because the day the switch flips, when central banks, governments, and corporations start settling on Hedera, that's the day the market wakes up to what HBAR really is. Not a speculative token, but the fuel of a new digital economy. Here's the uncomfortable truth nobody wants to say out loud. HBAR doesn't just compete with ISO 20022 tokens. In a lot of ways, it outclasses them. Yes, XRP, XLM, and XDC have their place. They're powerful in what they do. But Hedera plays in a different league, the invisible infrastructure that will power the digital economy long after the noise fades. Let's start with this speed and finality. If you've ever sent a transaction on XRP or XLM, you know how fast they feel. A few seconds, boom, done. But on Hedera, you're not waiting for confirmation blocks or validator consensus like on a typical blockchain. You're witnessing something mathematically different. Hashgraph consensus. It's not built on blocks. It's built on gossip. Nodes don't wait to be told what happened. They gossip about transactions to each other, achieving consensus almost instantly. That's why Hedera finalizes transactions in 3 to 5 seconds. No rollbacks, no forks, no pending status. That's not fast, that's near-instant trust. And this matters because in a world where money moves at the speed of data, latency is everything. When banks, fintechs, or governments start settling tokenized assets, they won't choose networks that usually confirm transactions. They'll pick the one that guarantees it. Now let's talk security. HBAR doesn't rely on mining or proof-of-stake voting drama. It uses asynchronous Byzantine fault tolerance, the gold standard of digital security. In plain English, even if part of the network goes rogue, consensus can't be compromised. That's military-grade resilience, and only a handful of distributed systems in the world can claim it. Next, governance. This is where HBAR absolutely destroys the competition. While other networks are run by anonymous validators, Hedera is governed by a council of global enterprises, each one publicly known, legally bound, and accountable. We're talking Google, IBM, LG, Boeing, Dell, Standard Bank, and DBS, among others. These aren't influencers. They're Fortune 500 giants with reputations worth billions. They vote, they run nodes, they manage upgrades, and none of them can take over the network. That's the genius of the council model. Distributed power with real-world accountability. It's the antidote to the chaos that wrecked so many other crypto projects. Then there's energy efficiency. Let's be real, the next phase of finance won't run on wasteful systems. Bitcoin burns cities' worth of electricity just to confirm a block. Even proof-of-stake systems consume more than they admit. Hedera? Carbon negative. Not just neutral, negative. Every transaction is offset, audited, and logged. And when global institutions are under ESG pressure, environmental, social, and governance compliance, this is huge. If a bank or government can't prove sustainability, it can't scale its digital finance system. That's where Hedera shines. Now, compare that to XRP, XLM, and XDC. They're fast, yes. They're compliant, yes. But they're still optimizing old blockchain architecture. Hedera was born post-blockchain, it doesn't carry legacy baggage. It's like comparing an electric car to a jet engine. They both move, but one operates in a different dimension. And then there's the ecosystem factor. Hedera's developers aren't just building DeFi protocols. They're building infrastructure, tokenization platforms, sustainability ledgers, payment rails, supply chain authentication, and even digital identity frameworks. These are systems governments and corporations can adopt today, not next decade. ISO 20022 is all about structured data, financial messaging that can be read by machines. Hedera doesn't just comply, it amplifies. Its consensus service can log, verify, and timestamp ISO-compliant transactions faster and cheaper than any traditional blockchain can dream of. So when the switch flips, when banks, payment networks, and corporations begin connecting ISO rails to distributed ledgers, guess which system quietly fits the bill? The one built for institutions from day one. The one governed by the very entities who will use it. The one that's energy efficient, secure, and enterprise approved. That's Hedera. Because here's the thing, XRP, XLM, and XDC will absolutely have their roles. They'll move liquidity, bridge currencies, handle niche settlement use cases. But Hedera will be the platform they connect to. The neutral layer that holds the data, tracks the movement, and validates every interaction at lightning speed. It's not competition, it's hierarchy. HBAR isn't fighting them. It's becoming the infrastructure that holds them all together. And that's why even just one HBAR isn't just a coin. It's a key to the next generation of finance, quietly waiting for the world to catch up. Take Atma.io, a project by Avery Dennison, one of the biggest labeling and supply chain companies in the world. They track billions of products, food, clothes, medical devices every single day. And what ledger powers their transparency and sustainability data? Hedera Hashgraph. Not Ethereum, not Solana, not even a private chain. Hedera. Because when you need a system that can handle billions of data points with speed, precision, and trust, there's only one network that can do it without breaking under its own weight. That's what Hedera was built for. And this is the part most people miss. These integrations aren't future plans. They're live systems. Atma.io alone logs billions of transactions every month on Hedera. Every tag, every scan, every movement of a product through a supply chain is verified by the same technology behind your HBAR wallet. You're not holding a crypto. You're holding the digital oil that runs the machine of real-world commerce. Then there's Shinhan Bank, one of the largest banks in South Korea. They're not just testing Hedera for fun. They're building cross-border payment pilots alongside Standard Bank, Africa's biggest financial institution. 2 banks, 2 continents, 1 ledger. Think about what that means. A transaction that used to take days and cost a small fortune is now happening in seconds. Verified, secure, and fully traceable. And it's all happening on Hedera. That's not speculation. That's the future quietly being built before your eyes. Now let's talk carbon credits. The global race for sustainability is heating up, and companies need to prove they're offsetting emissions. Problem is, most of those carbon credits are paper promises, unverifiable and opaque. Hedera fixes that. Projects like Dovu and Envision Blockchain are using Hedera to tokenize and track verified carbon credits in real time. Every offset, every emission, every piece of data locked, time-stamped, and verifiable forever. No greenwashing. No lies. Just math. And here's where the brilliance shows. While other networks chase use cases, Hedera is quietly owning industries. Supply chain transparency, banking settlement, environmental accountability, digital identity, tokenization of real-world assets. Every major future vertical of global finance, Hedera is already there. But the market doesn't see it. Because there's no drama, no hype cycle, no celebrity influencer pumping it. Just quiet progress. And that's why HBAR is so misunderstood. Investors are wired to react to noise, to the next meme, the next headline. But the biggest money always moves in silence. And right now, in the silence, the world's most powerful institutions are building their digital ecosystems on a network most retail investors still think is just another altcoin. It's not. It's the scaffolding for what's coming. Imagine when those partnerships go from pilot to production. Imagine when the transaction volume goes from millions to billions per day. Imagine when the retail world finally wakes up and realizes, wait, this isn't just another crypto project. This is the infrastructure. That's when HBAR stops being an undervalued token and becomes a necessity. That's when it steps out from the shadow of XRP, XLM, and XDC not to compete, but to complete the digital finance puzzle they've all been building toward. Because at the end of the day, when the dust settles and the noise dies down, the world won't remember who had the flashiest coin. They'll remember who built the system that actually worked. And that's Hedera. Every partnership, every node, every transaction logged. It's all stacking into a structure that will one day look obvious in hindsight. the same way the early internet did in the 90s. Back then, people said, "Who needs a website?" Now the entire world runs on it. And today, they say, "Who cares about Hedera?" Tomorrow they'll realize everything they touch runs on it. The craziest part? You're already in. You're not chasing the hype, you're ahead of it. Every time you check your HBAR wallet, remember this: you're holding a stake in one of the most efficient, secure, and trusted distributed ledgers in human history. Not a gamble, a foundation. And maybe that's why it feels so lonely right now. Because when you're early, it always does. When you tell people you believe in something they can't see yet, they call you crazy, right up until the moment it happens. But here's what's coming. The second the mainstream realizes that global companies, Google, IBM, Dell, Standard Bank, Boeing, are not just partners but operators of the network, that's when the revaluation begins. When central banks start issuing tokenized currencies on public ledgers, and ESG regulators demand carbon accountability at scale, they'll need a network that's fast, secure, auditable, and sustainable. They'll need Hedera. The banks will come. The governments will follow. The developers will flood in. And the world will finally catch up to where you've been standing this whole time. People think crypto is about luck, catching the next wave, timing the pump. But the real wealth has always belonged to those who understand infrastructure. Those who plant before the rain. And you, yes, you watching this right now, might be one of them. Because maybe you didn't buy HBAR to gamble. Maybe you bought it because you felt something about it, that calm, quiet conviction that this wasn't just another project. That this was the one that made sense. Every transaction final in seconds. Every node backed by billion-dollar companies. Every part of the network carbon negative. It's not hype, it's engineering perfection hiding in plain sight. And if you've been watching long enough, you know the pattern. The world laughs at innovation before it depends on it. They laughed at Bitcoin. Then they bought it. They ignored Ethereum. Then they built on it. And now they're overlooking Hedera, the network that might just power them all. This is your reminder. You don't need millions of HBAR to be part of this story. You just need to understand what you're holding. Because one day, when the headlines finally catch up, when everyone suddenly starts saying HBAR, this Hedera, that, when the price chart turns vertical, you'll remember this moment. You'll remember sitting here, quietly stacking conviction while everyone else was distracted. And that's the part nobody can ever take away from you. The future won't be decided by hype coins or empty promises. It'll be decided by networks that work. And when the switch flips, when the world finally connects finance, identity, and data through distributed ledgers, one of those networks will already be running smoothly, with no downtime, no drama, no chaos. And it'll be called Hedera. If you're still here, it's because you get it. You see what's happening before the rest of the world does. So here's what I want you to do right now. Drop a comment below and tell me how long you've been holding HBAR. Let's see how many early believers are really out there. If you're holding even one HBAR, you're already part of something bigger than a token. You're part of a movement that's rewriting how the world moves value. So hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't, and share this video with someone who still doesn't understand why HBAR matters. Because soon they will.